Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Glad to have you with us. Today, we're launching ourselves into orbit, really. We're exploring something that feels like it's jumped straight out of science fiction, but
Yeah.
maybe isn't anymore. Commercial space hotels.
Yeah, it sounds wild.
We've got a great set of sources to unpack this: CNN, Archaeexpo, eMagazine, Engineer, and Arch Daily. They're all talking seriously about these plans. So our mission today is to figure out, what would life actually be like up there? How are they planning to create gravity? What are the big hurdles? These sources give different perspectives, different details. It's fascinating stuff.
It really is. And it's moving faster than I think many people realize. This isn't just napkin sketches anymore. What these sources show is, well, not just the dream, but the actual steps being planned, the timelines. It suggests a future where looking down on Earth could be maybe not commonplace, but certainly possible for more than just astronauts. It really shifts your idea of travel.
Okay, so let's get into the heart of it. There's this U.S. company, Orbital Assembly Corporation, though. They're called Above Space Development Corporation now. Keep that in mind. And they're not just planning one space hotel. They're planning two. You've got Pioneer Station first. CNN's reporting suggests maybe 28 people. And operational, incredibly, maybe by 2025. Then there's the big one, Voyager Station. Now, the numbers here vary a bit depending on the source. Some say 400 people total. Some mention 450 guests and crew. Engineering says 440 guests, Arch Daily a bit less.
Right, around the 400-ish mark seems to be the consistent goal for total capacity, guests and crew combined, a substantial number.
Absolutely. But CNN rightly points out those dates, 2025, 2027. They are very much dependent on funding coming through. That's key.
Yeah, definitely. And it's important to see this as more than just tourism, Orbital Assembly or Above Space, they talk about a space business park. So think offices, research labs, maybe even manufacturing taking advantage of zero-G data storage too. The goal is broader, really, making space a place for industry, not just the super wealthy visiting for a week.
That really does change the perspective, doesn't it? From just a novelty trip to actual infrastructure. Now, there's a little bit of history here with Voyager Station. It used to be called the Von Braun Station, under a different group, the Gateway Foundation. Orbital Assembly took over, and, well, they distanced themselves from that name, understandably, given Wernher von Braun's controversial past. It's a tricky thing, naming something for the future.
Indeed. History always casts a long shadow.
So, okay, how do these stations actually look? How do they work? The design is pretty iconic, isn't it? These huge spinning wheels orbiting Earth. The size estimates for Voyagers are quite broad, actually. Archaeexpo suggests almost 500 meters across, while Engineering mentions 200 meters. That's a big difference.
It is, and likely reflects evolving plans or maybe different phases. The core concept is that rotation.
Archaeexpo says it spins fast enough to go around the Earth every 90 minutes.
Right, and that rotation is the key to artificial gravity. It's the classic sci-fi idea, but they're actually engineering it. Think about swinging a bucket of water around your head, right? The water stays in. It's that centrifugal force pushing outwards. So near the center hub, you'd have basically zero-G weightlessness. But as you move down the spokes towards the outer rim, that force increases. The plan is to have moon-level gravity, about 1/6 of Earth's, in the main living areas.
Which allows for things we take for granted, like showers that work properly or sitting down to eat without your food floating away.
Exactly, Earth-like comforts.
Oh,
But you also get the fun space stuff. They talk about low-gravity areas for recreation, like space basketball. Imagine that.
I am so there for space basketball. And the designs we're seeing, the interiors, they definitely don't look like the ISS. They're going for a luxury hotel vibe, but, with the ultimate view. Amenities listed include restaurants, a cinema, spa, library, even a concert venue, bars, a gym, proper hotel stuff.
And
the suites themselves,
Yeah.
Wi-Fi, climate-controlled tablets, and obviously those huge windows looking back at Earth.
Yeah, Tim Alator, the COO at Orbital Assembly, explicitly mentioned the movie 2001, A Space Odyssey.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of a blueprint of what not to do. They want comfortable, inviting spaces, no stark white walls and exposed wires, warmth, texture.
Makes sense if you want people to stay for more than a few hours.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing vision. Sounds incredibly comfortable.
Oh,
But building it in space, how?
that's the multi-billion-dollar question, right?
Yeah, probably literally.
The plan involves building it in modules on Earth,
Yeah,
then launching those modules.
and assembling them robotically in low Earth orbit, like high-tech space Lego.
Pretty much. Arch Daly mentioned the first step is building this central ring, the docking hub. It wouldn't even be pressurized initially. Then spokes connect out to the main outer ring, and that's where the 24 habitation modules would attach. It's in a complex sequence.
So how far along are they? Is this still just computer models?
Well, they've made some real progress on the ground. They've successfully tested key systems, things called D-Star, which is their robotic assembly tech, Gravity Ring, a structural prototype, and P-Star for power transfer. And maybe the biggest step recently is this new agreement they have with NASA, an umbrella Space Act agreement.
Okay, what does that mean practically?
It gives Above Space access to NASA facilities, like testing equipment at Marshall Space Flight Center. It lets them validate their tech, their software, using NASA's resources and expertise. It's a serious collaboration. NASA gets insights into commercial microgravity stuff, and Above Space gets a massive boost in testing capability. It shows real momentum.
That sounds huge. A proper partnership.
But it can't all be smooth sailing, surely. What are the big challenges they still face?
Oh, definitely challenges. Nailing the exact level of artificial gravity for comfort and health is one. You don't want it too strong or too weak, and space radiation is always a factor. Less of an issue for short tourist stays, maybe, but still needs careful management and shielding built into the design. All right, radiation's always the elephant in the vacuum, isn't it? Okay, let's talk money. Because, space tourism right now is astronomical, pun intended.
Yeah.
Engineering threw out a figure for an initial stay on Voyager, around $25 million.
Oof. Yeah, that's the starting point. Steep.
Very. But Orbital Assembly, or Above Space, they say they want this to be for everyone, eventually. Alator's quote was, "We're doing everything we can to make space accessible to everyone, not just the wealthy."
And there is a logic to how costs could come down. They're banking on launch costs continuing to plummet, especially with reusable rockets like Starship becoming operational. Plus, as the technology matures and more players get involved, you get economies of scale. The hope is, long-term, it might be comparable to, say, a high-end cruise. Still expensive, but not, billion-only territory.
A space cruise. Interesting way to put it. And even if the price drops, you still need training, right? It's not like booking a flight to Florida.
No, absolutely. Guests will need a short training program on Earth, adapting to low-G, safety drills, how to move around the station. You need to be prepared. It's still space, after all.
You definitely earned that view then. So, thinking bigger picture, how does this compare to what, say, Virgin Galactic or Blue Origin are doing?
It's a totally different proposition, really. Those are suborbital flights. Amazing experiences, sure, but very short. Up and down. These stations, Voyager and Pioneer, they're destinations, places you go to and stay for days. It's much more like the ISS in terms of being an orbital outpost, but designed for hospitality, not just science.
Right, a place to live, temporarily at least, not just visit for 5 minutes.
Exactly. Which brings up other questions, of course, like the environmental impact. Building something this massive means a lot of rocket launches. And there's always the ethical debate, isn't there? Spending billions on space hotels when there are problems here on Earth.
Yeah, how do they answer that?
Well, the sources say Orbital Assembly talks about using sustainable materials, efficient energy systems, relying on reusable rockets to minimize the launch footprint. And Alator argues that pushing boundaries in space often leads to tech that helps us back on Earth, think GPS, weather satellites. He also makes the case that learning to live sustainably off Earth, managing resources in a closed loop, could teach us valuable lessons for living more sustainably on Earth, thinking of the whole solar system as our environment, basically.
That's a really interesting way to frame it, expanding our definition of environment. And what about safety? People must worry about that.
Of course. Former astronaut Jeffrey Hoffman talked about this with CNN. He acknowledged the initial fears, but compared it to early aviation. He believes a solid safety record is key. Once the first wave of travelers goes up, has an amazing time, and comes back safely, word of mouth will be incredibly powerful. Trust builds over time.
Makes sense. So the timelines, they seem incredibly ambitious. When are they actually hoping to start building in orbit?
According to Arch Daly, construction on Voyager is meant to start in 2026.
Wow, that's soon.
Yeah. And engineering adds more detail, aiming for the first test module in orbit around 2025, 2026, some partial assembly in early 2027. And then maybe, the first crewed test flights and even commercial bookings by late 2027. It's aggressive.
Very. Who are they working with to actually pull this off? Launches? Transport?
They've said they're talking to pretty much everybody in the space industry.
Yeah.
Which you'd have to, right?
Yeah.
Specifically, SpaceX gets mentioned for launches you need heavy lift, like Falcon Heavy or Starship, and Sierra Nevada Corporation for their Dream Chaser spaceplane, potentially for ferrying people and cargo back and forth.
So real partnerships taking shape. And this isn't even their final frontier, is it? They're thinking beyond Earth orbit.
Oh yeah, they've floated ideas for follow-on projects like lunar gateway hotels, even Mars transit hubs down the line. Talk about long-term vision.
Incredible. And the public seems ready for it, doesn't it? You hear about celebrities interested, travel agencies already planning.
There's definitely a growing excitement, a sense that space is opening up.
It really feels like we're on the cusp of something huge. This deep dive makes it clear these aren't just idle dreams. It's a potential transformation for travel, for humanity's place beyond Earth.
Absolutely. And maybe the thought to leave you with as you mull all this over is this. Putting aside the immediate question of who gets to go first, or even when exactly these stations will open, just the act of pursuing this kind of project, this grand vision, doesn't it force us to think differently? About resources, about sustainability, about our connection to the wider cosmos, the innovations needed, the perspective shifts required. Maybe those are the things that could end up benefiting everyone right here on Earth in ways we haven't even thought of yet.